very good morning to all of you. Welcome back to the show. Yes, you are watching Good Morning Sri Lanka, tuned in to MTV Sports. And you are with me, Vasam, and once again with Amaya.
Hello, good morning everybody, and good morning to you too, Vasam.
Good morning, Amaya. Well, we've got an interesting show lined up today, don't we?
We do.
But most importantly, it's the last day of the month. It is the 31st, which means I'm sure a lot of people are happy because I'm sure they've got their salaries by now. But hopefully they'll be happy during the next 2 weeks also, because after all the shows we've been doing on financial management, I'm sure our viewers must have learned something out of it.
That's true, and hopefully the salary does last till the end of the month. But speaking about managing your salary, you know, there are kids involved, you have your families to take care of.
Definitely.
And if you have children at home, and they do tend to be active, and you get children playing, and they study, and they do so many things. So the parents are always attentive about what's going on in their kids' lives. But we're speaking today, our show today is about a special developmental disorder, isn't it, Vasant?
And actually one of the keywords you mentioned there was attentive. I think that's something I picked up from what you said. But of course, yeah, when you talk about this disorder, it sometimes could be a problem in that area, and it seems to be a problem which very recently, actually a little while ago, I found out that is actually quite big in the country. I didn't realize.
It is prevalent.
And we are going to talk about it, and we do have some interesting guests in the studio as usual. We've got a professor and we've got a senior lecturer in psychology. Amaya is going to introduce you to them.
Of course. And we have with us Professor Hemamali Pereira, who is a consultant child and adolescent psychiatrist at the Lady Ridgeway Hospital for Children. So thank you so much for being with us here with us, ma'am. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And also Ms. Dilhara Vitanage, a senior lecturer at the Colombo Institute of Research and Psychology. So thank you for being with us. Good morning.
And good morning to the two of you. Well, of course, we've been throwing a few hints to our viewers, but they really still don't know what we are talking about. So just to let you know, we're actually, we're going to talk to you about ADD or ADHD, which is attention deficiency disorder, or they also say attention deficiency hyperactive disorder. Well, we know very little about the topic, but we've heard about it a lot. So we've got the experts right here to talk to you about it. So, Professor, if we are to start off with you, what is ADD or ADHD?
I think I should first of all take a slight modification in what you said just a little while ago. It actually means ADHD is the accepted term, and ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, simply because the condition is a very common behavioral problem. It shows as a behavior, and the key or cardinal features in that is children have a very low attention span and they are hyperactive, and they in addition they are also very impulsive. That's what it means. So if I may say what it actually, how it shows in the child, the attention deficit shows up as, first of all, we are talking about children who are, say, in school, say, take children in the classroom. The attention deficit shows up as their difficulty in focusing and sustaining attention on the task ahead of them, and then completing that. So they have a very short attention span, and they move from one task to another, not completing anything. And the usual complaint is they haven't taken down any of the notes that the teacher read. They've been daydreaming, or they have just completed only half of it, and they can't remember what had gone on in the classroom. Hyperactivity can show up as very disruptive behavior, because they won't stay seated. They'll be fidgeting around, dropping things and picking up again, or throwing paper jets at somebody, things like that. So they can be very disruptive in the classroom. Impulsiveness mainly shows up as answering out of turn, shouting out for no clear reason, getting up and leaving, things like that, or sometimes getting into fights.
So if I could just jump in and ask you this, so attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is not exactly a disorder that comes about because the child has not got enough attention. Rather, the attention deficit part is there to say that the brain cannot focus for a long period of time, isn't it?
Yes, I'm glad you said that, because then you refer to attention deficit hyperactivity, then people wonder whether the child has not got enough attention, which is not the case. We're here talking about a very specific function of the brain, and that refers to the ability to stay focused on whatever you're doing and sustain it long enough to be able to go through that and take it to completion. That's what it means. So it's a brain skill or intellectual skill, or what we refer to as a cognitive skill, rather than the attention you get from other people.
I see. I was getting a little scared there, Maya, because listening to the professor speak, I sincerely hope nobody thought that I had ADHD when I was a kid, because my memory span when it comes to studies is very low, and I did throw a lot of paper rockets in my class. So hopefully nobody had the wrong impression, but anyway, we'll be talking to Ms. Dilhara also a lot more about this topic. But before we get there, Maya, I think we do have a video here at JMSR as well, so let's check that out first.
How to recognize ADHD symptoms in children. Is your child high-spirited and unfocused, or suffering from attention deficit hyperactivity disorder? These ADHD guidelines will help you decide if a checkup is in order. You will need an analysis of their behavior, an idea of how long it's been going on, and a visit to the pediatrician. Step 1. Note their capacity for concentrating. Most young children have short attention spans, but those with ADHD don't seem to be listening even when they're spoken to. They frequently lose things, have difficulty following instructions, and often make careless mistakes. Step 2. Recognize if their energy level seems excessive, even for a child. Are they unable to sit without fidgeting? Do they get in trouble at school for leaving their seat, or running and climbing excessively or inappropriately? Do they talk incessantly? Interrupt constantly? Some children are more inattentive than hyperactive, and vice versa. Girls are more likely to have more attention problems, while boys more often fall into the hyperactive category. Step 3. Consider how long the behavior has been going on. If you've observed symptoms for more than 6 months, it might be ADHD. Step 4. Note where the behavior takes place. If it's only at home or only at school, something other than ADHD may be to blame for their symptoms. Step 5. Gauge the seriousness of the problem. Children with ADHD are regularly disruptive at school and at home. Their behavior causes problems in their relationships with both adults and other children. Step 6. If you recognize any of these symptoms in your child, take them to your pediatrician. It's important that they have a medical checkup to rule out other causes for their behavior before ADHD is diagnosed. Did you know children whose mothers had smoked while pregnant were more than twice as likely to have ADHD as children?
So that's an interesting statistic right there. But tell us, these symptoms, now how can you differentiate between symptoms of ADHD and symptoms of, just a child being a child?
Like me.
Because Wasaw needs to clear this up as well, once and for all, to make sure he doesn't have
my mom's probably watching the show. She's going to be worried after this.
Tell us about how to tell the difference between these.
Yeah. When you take a child who is about 3 to 5, or even younger than that, they are probably more active, more energetic. But in case of ADHD, what you find is the child is more hyperactive, more energetic than the rest of the kids of his or her age. Most of the time, it's the boys' hyperactive symptoms. So that is if your kid is having ADHD, and if you suspect it to be ADHD, the thing is you will clearly see a marked difference between your child's hyperactivity, how your child behaves, and the normal kids of his or her age.
So what's the ideal age to sort of recognize ADHD?
Usually it's below 7 years of age.
And also, when we started off the show, we were discussing the fact that it's a big problem in Sri Lanka. Well, if you take a percentage, what are we talking about, Professor?
In Sri Lanka, the prevalence studies, so epidemiological studies show there is a 5% prevalence. So that is, out of 100 children, 5 would have ADHD. So that's quite a large number.
That's
yes, but I think more recently, I think that 5% was what was accepted for anywhere in the world.
But Professor, this was the detected rate, right?
That's right.
So
yes.
I mean, there are lots of cases which have gone undetected.
When you take a prevalence study, when you do a prevalence study, there are children who are detected and undetected, both in that, included in that. So, say in the community, you may study all the children using, say, clinical or some kind of a standardized schedule or something like that. So that's where we come up with 5. But in the US, more recently, they wonder whether it's much higher than that, probably twice at 10% or something like that.
Well, there you go. It seems to be quite a big problem when it comes to Sri Lanka. And of course, like the professor rightfully said, I mean, if there are 100 kids out there, 5 of them probably have it. So it is a recognized problem, and we need to go deep down into it further. And that is exactly what we're going to do after we come from this commercial break. So don't go away.